Why does a man pull back at the very moment when he feels the most? Why does he shut down emotionally when a bond grows deeper? And why does this happen most often with the women he truly loves? Carl Jung spent years exploring the male mind and uncovered something unsettling. Men do not run from difficult women. They do not escape drama. They do not fear complexity. They withdraw from one single quality in a woman. And this quality is often what you believe is your greatest strength. Most women do not realize what truly takes place inside a man when he creates emotional distance. They assume he is not ready. They assume he fears commitment. They assume he lacks emotional maturity. But Jung understood the deeper psychological truth. A man who loves you deeply pulls away not because he is heartless or incapable of love. He pulls away because you awaken something he has suppressed his entire life. You trigger a psychological response that Jung described as the most dangerous moment in a man's inner world. And here is the painful truth. Nearly every relationship tactic you have learned only makes things worse. Advice like, give him space, misses the point. Strategies like, be mysterious, miss the point. Tips such as, let him chase you completely, miss the point, because no one has explained the reality of deep psychology. No one has told you what truly happens in his subconscious when he encounters a woman like you. No one has explained why men avoid the very women who touch them at the deepest level. No one has shown you why your emotional honesty unsettles him, and no one has told you that what you believe is a weakness is actually your greatest psychological power. Jung discovered that there is a certain trait in some women that men unconsciously fear, not because it is harmful, but because it is so strong that it forces a man to face himself. And most men are not prepared for that confrontation. In the next moments, you will understand what unfolds in a man's psyche when he meets a woman who carries this trait. You will learn why he withdraws even when he loves you, perhaps exactly because he loves you. You will understand the Jungian view that explains why emotional depth creates distance in men, and you will learn a psychological approach that changes everything. Not to control him, not to manipulate him, but to finally understand what is happening in his mind when he shuts down emotionally. But I must warn you, this understanding will hurt, because you will see that he is not running from you. He is running from the man he would need to become by your side. He is fleeing from his own emotional depth that you awaken in him. And the paradox is this: the more genuine you are, the more you express your true self, the more you force him to face his own incompleteness. Jung called this the mirror of the unconscious. You reflect back to him everything he has failed to integrate within himself, and that is why he keeps his distance. Not because you are too much, not because you are overwhelming, not because you are too emotional, but because you are whole, and his lack of wholeness becomes unbearable in your presence. So if you are ready to understand why men distance themselves from the women they love the most, let us explore what Carl Jung revealed about the male psyche and what few people ever explain about the deep psychology of men. Before we continue, I want you to do something meaningful. If what I have described resonates deeply with you, if you recognize yourself as the woman who confronts men with their wholeness, then write one word in the comments right now: reflection. Why does this matter? Jung believed that change occurs not only through insight, but through conscious action. By writing this word, you activate a process within your own mind. You tell your subconscious, I am ready to face the truth. I am ready to understand what is really happening. This simple act of writing reflection is the first step toward integrating this awareness. It is as if you are making an agreement with your own unconscious. Jung called this conscious participation in the process of individuation. Most women absorb information passively. They watch, they listen, they think interesting, and then nothing changes in their lives. But the women who truly transform, who shift their relationship patterns, are the ones who take active steps, who choose conscious participation, who signal to the world, I am not here only to listen, I am here to change. When you write reflection in the comments, 3 things happen psychologically. First, you confirm to yourself that this understanding is real. You honor your own experience. Second, you signal to your unconscious that you are ready to accept your inner power and stop believing that you are too intense or too much. Third, you connect with countless other women who are experiencing the same pattern, who know what it feels like to be desired and avoided at the same time. Look at the comments and notice how many women have written reflection. These are women who understand. These are women who are no longer trapped in unconscious relationship cycles, but are becoming aware creators of their reality. And here is the most powerful part. When you write reflection, you train your mind to notice the signs in your own love life. You begin to see when you awaken his inner conflict. You recognize when he is escaping from his own depth. This awareness is what separates women who repeat painful patterns from women who break cycles and form deep, honest connections with men who are ready to grow. This realization can feel heavy at first because it removes the fantasy that you did something wrong. It shows you that your presence alone creates change. When a man senses that change, he feels exposed. He feels seen in ways he has avoided. Your calm confidence, your emotional clarity, and your ability to remain grounded force him to notice the parts of himself he has ignored. He may not have words for this discomfort, but his body reacts before his mind understands. Distance becomes his shield. Silence becomes his defense, not because you harmed him, but because you revealed him to himself. This is why chasing, explaining, or shrinking yourself never brings him closer. Those actions only confuse you and drain your strength. Understanding this truth returns your power to you. You stop personalizing his withdrawal and start seeing it for what it is: a response to growth, a response to depth, a response to love that demands maturity. And once you see this clearly, you no longer beg for connection. You choose alignment. You choose men who can stand in the light you naturally carry without needing to run from it. This awareness lets peace replace confusion and self-trust replace doubt. Do this now before we move forward, because what I will share next only works for women who have already taken this first conscious step. Women who only watch and listen passively may hear the technique, but it will not settle into their subconscious. But for the women who wrote reflection, everything that follows will carry deep psychological meaning. So, are you ready? Good. If you wrote reflection, then you are prepared for what comes next. First, let me explain something about the male psyche that most women do not know, and that most men do not fully understand. Carl Jung discovered that every man carries a feminine element within him. He called it thema. This is not a symbol or a metaphor. It is a real psychological structure present in every man. The anima holds everything a man experiences as feminine within himself, and therefore pushes out of his conscious identity. His emotions, his sensitivity, his desire for deep connection, his ability to feel instead of only analyze. From the moment a boy hears phrases like, "Boys do not cry," or "Be strong and do not be weak," he slowly disconnects from parts of who he truly is. Those parts do not vanish. They sink into the unconscious. They become hisma. And here is where it becomes important. This repressed inner world is projected onto women, especially the women he loves, but not in the same way with every woman. Most women only touch his lightly. They play roles. They show a socially approved version of femininity. His outer mask connects with their outer mask, and everything stays on the surface. These relationships feel safe to him, predictable and easy to control. But then he meets you, and something is different. You are not acting. You are not feminine as a performance. You move through life with emotional honesty. You are integrated, or at least consciously moving toward wholeness. Jung would say, you are further along the path of individuation. You do not hide behind a mask. You do not pretend. You live from the inside outward, and that is where the tension begins. When a man meets a woman who is whole within herself, something powerful happens inside him. Hisma does not just stir, it fully awakens through you. He suddenly sees everything he denied in himself, the feelings he never allowed, the softness he buried, the hunger for depth he learned to label as weakness. You become a living mirror of the parts of his soul he never dared to face. In that moment, fear rises. Many women misunderstand this fear. They think he fears commitment, that he is emotionally unavailable, still attached to his past, or simply afraid of intimacy. But the truth is much deeper. He is not running from you. He is running from himself, from the inner world your presence brings into the light. Jung described this meeting with thee as one of the most frightening yet transformative moments in a man's life. It is frightening because it threatens the identity he spent years building. He realizes he is not only control, logic, and strength, he is also emotion, vulnerability, and longing. For a man who learned that strength means emotional suppression, this realization feels like the ground breaking beneath him. So he retreats, not because his love is weak, but because it is overwhelming. The deeper his feelings for you, the more strongly Hisma awakens. The more it awakens, the clearer his inner emptiness becomes, and the clearer that emptiness feels, the stronger his fear grows. Distance becomes his escape. This is the psychological pattern most women never see, and most advice completely misunderstands. You are told to give him space, but in his inner world, this confirms his fear and teaches him that avoidance keeps him safe. You are told to be mysterious, but mystery only works on shallow projections. A man whose anima you have awakened cannot chase. He is already drowning in feelings he does not understand. You are told to act calm and detached, but your authenticity is what touched him in the first place. If you suddenly become emotionally distant, you lose the very essence that reached him. A Jungian psychologist would say, this is the moment you step away from your individuation and return to a mask. And when you do that, you become like everyone else in his life, safe but empty of meaning. So the real question is not what you did wrong. The real question is how to navigate a situation where your greatest strength, your emotional wholeness, is also what pushes him away. To understand this, you must know that there are 3 types of men, and each reacts differently to a woman like you. The first type is fully trapped in his persona. Hisma is buried so deeply that he does not even know it exists. When it is activated, he runs and never looks back. He is not ready for growth. The second type is aware on some level that Hisma exists, but is afraid of it. He pulls away, but returns in cycles. He wants closeness, but cannot hold it. He loves you, but fears what you awaken in him. This man stands at the edge of transformation and needs something very specific. The third type is a man who has already begun individuation. He knows his emotional world and has integrated it. This man does not flee. He moves toward you because of your depth, not in spite of it. So, the real question becomes, which type of man are you facing? And more importantly, what do you do when you are dealing with the second type? The man who loves you yet runs, who comes close and then shuts down, who feels deeply but closes himself emotionally. This is where Jung's perspective becomes truly powerful, because the answer is neither to give up on him nor to chase after him. It is something much deeper and more transformative. It is the understanding that you cannot become his therapist, but you can become his mirror. And there is a very specific way this happens, a way that changes everything. Before reaching that point, you need clear signs, something practical that tells you, yes, I activated Hisma. Yes, he is running from himself and not from me. Jung describes certain behaviors that appear in a man when his anima is awakened by a woman. When you recognize these signs, you can be certain that you are not the problem. You are the catalyst for something he must face within himself. The first sign is a cycle of idealization followed by withdrawal. A man whose Ma has been activated will place you on a pedestal and pull away at the same time. He may say things like, "You are different from anyone I have known," or "I have never felt this way before," or "You understand me better than anyone ever has." And then suddenly, sometimes the very next day or week, he becomes distant. He feels colder, harder to reach, emotionally unavailable. Most women panic and ask themselves what they did wrong, but nothing is wrong. What actually happened is that his projection became too intense. Jung explained that when a man idealizes a woman, he is projecting all the unlived and repressed parts of his inner world onto her. He no longer sees her simply as a woman. He sees her as a symbol of wholeness, almost like a muse or a goddess. And unconsciously, this creates pain, because if she represents completeness, then his own incompleteness becomes painfully visible. Pulling away is his way of lowering that intensity. It is not a game and not manipulation. It is a psychological defense. What truly matters is this. If he pulls away but then returns again and again, This is a man who unconsciously wants to integrate Hisma. He simply does not know how to move through that process. The second sign is emotional overload. He may say things like, "You awaken so much inside me," or "I do not understand what you do to me," or "When I am with you, I feel things I cannot control." Women often hear this as romance or as danger, but what he is really saying is, "You activate my shadow." In Jung's psychology, the shadow is not something dark or evil. It is everything we pushed away because we believed it was unacceptable. For many men, this includes emotion, vulnerability, tenderness, and the desire for real emotional closeness. Not just physical intimacy, but soul-level connection. When he says he feels out of control, what he is truly expressing is that his usual psychological defenses collapse in your presence. This does not happen with just anyone. It happens only when a woman is so real and emotionally grounded that she cuts through his mask and touches his core. The problem is that many women respond by giving even more emotion, more reassurance, more comfort, trying to calm him down, and this makes things worse. It confirms his deepest fear. I am weak. I need her. I am losing control. And a man who believes he has lost control will instinctively try to regain it. The quickest way to do that is emotional distance. So when he tells you he feels overwhelmed, acknowledge it, but do not chase him. Jung would say that each person must walk their own path of individuation. You can witness it, but you cannot rescue him from it. The third sign is a repeated pattern of closeness followed by retreat. This is the most subtle, but also the most revealing sign. He moves closer. The bond deepens. True intimacy begins to form. He opens up and shares parts of himself he usually keeps hidden, and then, right at the peak of closeness, he pulls back. But not completely. He does not disappear. Instead, he becomes shallow. His messages grow shorter. His energy feels flat. He is present in form, but absent in depth. Jung would describe this as a retreat back into the persona. He hides behind the socially acceptable version of himself because the real self you touched feels too dangerous to stay in. What is fascinating is that during this phase, he is testing something. He is unconsciously testing whether you will accept only his surface self or whether you can hold space for his wholeness. Many women fail this test without realizing it. They try to pull him back into depth. They ask what is wrong, why he feels distant, why he changed. This response feels natural, but psychologically it confirms his fear. It tells him that his emotional presence is required for your stability, and that feels like too much responsibility. So he protects himself by pulling away even more. The Jungian response is very different. You notice his retreat, you respect it, but you do not abandon your own depth. You do not shrink yourself to match his surface level. You remain whole. You stay emotionally authentic without demanding that he meet you there. This is the difference between being needy and being a mirror. Neediness says, "Come back to depth because I need you." Being a mirror says, "I remain in my depth, and when you are ready, you know where to find me." This is where the real transformation happens. A man whose myrrh has been awakened cannot stay shallow for long when he knows depth exists. He may try to convince himself that he does not need it. He may pull away again, but his inner world longs for the integration that this connection offers. And so he returns, not because you chased him, not because you manipulated him, but because his own psyche draws him back. Each time he returns, he goes a little deeper, integrates a little more, and becomes slightly more whole. This is the relational individuation process Jung described. But this only works if you do not lose yourself in the process, if you begin to hide your truth to keep him, if you reduce your depth to make him comfortable, if you take his inner struggle personally instead of seeing it as a psychological journey, then you lose the very quality that could have supported his growth. That is why understanding these signs is so powerful. They give you the emotional distance to see clearly that this is not about you. This is his inner process, and you can witness it without losing yourself inside it. But then the question every woman eventually asks appears. How long do I wait? How long do I stay as the mirror before accepting that he may never be ready? This is the right question, and the answer is not what most people expect. Jung had a very clear view on when a woman should remain and when she must walk away. Here is the truth that is rarely spoken. Not every man whose anima you awaken is ready for the transformation it demands. And the most dangerous trap for a woman like you is the belief that if you just wait long enough, if you are patient enough, he will eventually change. Jung was very clear about this. Individuation cannot be forced. It can only be chosen. You can hold the mirror. You can show him what is possible. You can live your wholeness and show him what integration looks like, but you cannot walk that path for him. And here is the painful but necessary reality. Some men would rather stay fragmented than face the fear that comes with real wholeness. Jung called this the hero refusing the call. These men will move in endless cycles. They come close, then pull away. They return, then disappear again. But they never truly stay. Not because they do not love you, but because loving you would require them to love themselves. And that is something they are not yet able to do. So, how do you tell the difference? How do you know if you are dealing with a man who is genuinely individuating or a man who is simply circling his own fears? Jung offered 3 clear criteria. The first is movement, not stagnation. A man in real transformation moves. He may move slowly, he may stumble, he may take steps back, but there is movement. Each time he returns, he is slightly more open, slightly more honest, slightly more vulnerable. He begins to name his feelings instead of running from them. Even when it is uncomfortable, you see progress. A man who is stuck returns to the exact same place every time. The same fears, the same excuses, the same withdrawals. Nothing changes, nothing deepens. He repeats the pattern without learning from it. And this is important. You are not his therapist. It is not your role to guide him through every emotional step. Your only responsibility is to remain authentic and observe whether he is doing his inner work. If, after 6 months, a year, or even 2 years, nothing has truly shifted, that is not individuation. That is resistance, and you cannot save a man who refuses to face himself. The second criterion is self-reflection, not projection. A man who is ready for growth eventually takes responsibility for his behavior. He says things like, "I know I pull away when things get intense, and I am working on it. I see that my fear comes from my past, not from you. I understand that I am running from myself." This is a man beginning to integrate his shadow. He does not blame you for his inner conflict. He does not make you responsible for his emotions. A man who is not ready does the opposite. He says, "You are too intense. You expect too much. You overwhelm me. I cannot think around you." Do you feel the difference? One owns his inner world. The other turns his inner world into your fault. Jung was very clear. Projection is the opposite of individuation. A man who constantly projects is a man running from his psyche, and you cannot follow him there. The third criterion is that he seeks his own answers. This is the most subtle but often the most decisive sign. A man in real transformation actively looks inward. He reads, he reflects, he talks honestly with trusted people. He may seek therapy or explore his patterns on his own. He takes responsibility for his inner life. You do not need to explain his emotions to him or guide his healing. He finds his own language for it, and his actions show it. He understands something inside him needs attention, and he is willing to face it. A man who is not ready expects you to carry this weight. He wants you to explain his feelings, interpret his behavior, and lead him through his healing. He wants you to do the emotional work he avoids. This becomes exhausting because real transformation cannot be handed over to someone else. So, look honestly at the man in your life. Do you see movement or stagnation, self-reflection or projection, personal effort or passive expectation that you will fix him? Be deeply honest with yourself, because here is the final truth you need to hear. Your wholeness is not negotiable. You are not here to sacrifice your soul so a man can avoid his own. You are not here to wait forever for someone trapped in fear. You are not here to abandon your own individuation for the possibility of his. Jung said, "The greatest tragedy is not that people fail to become whole. The greatest tragedy is that they abandon their wholeness for the illusion of connection." And this is what many women do. Strong, deep, authentic women give up their own depth because they believe it will make a man stay. But here is the painful irony. In the end, he respects her less because on an unconscious level, he senses that she gave up her strength for him. And if it could be given up, perhaps it was never fully owned. This is the cruel paradox. The more you try to keep him by shrinking yourself, the less drawn he feels to you because it was your wholeness that attracted him in the first place. And this is where Jung's approach changes everything. Stay whole and let him choose. This does not mean becoming cold or distant. It means saying, I am here in my full depth and truth. If you are ready to meet me here, I am open, but I will not reduce myself to meet you in avoidance. This is loyalty to yourself. And the powerful truth is that men who are ready for individuation are drawn to this clarity. Men who are not ready are pushed away by it. And that is exactly how it should be. You are not looking for just any man. You are looking for the man who is ready to walk the path. Jung called this the alchemical marriage.